stop the supposing. Come on, baby, I know that you want me. Cause I'm holding all this loving for you. Last year, can't even. I've been missing you, I've been missing the bacana. Let we go, we walk up on the road. We go until the lights come on. Keep the drinks and shots. As we walk up by the truck. We jam into our favorite songs. Hands up, it's that time of the year.
Use your mic and you keep the quality.
Everybody else up on the phone.
I'll remove this one. Yeah.
Now, certainly that is how you start an event. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them another round of applause. And for those of you who are interested in receiving dance lessons at the end of today's event, during our networking event, you can certainly get lessons next door. So ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and industry experts, It is truly my pleasure to welcome you to the 2024 U.S. Virgin Islands Tourism Summit. Now, this is hosted at the beautiful Westin Beach Resort and Spa here at Frenchman's Reef on the stunning island of St. Thomas. So we thank everyone who may be here in person and also viewing on the live stream. Now, my name is Shayla Solomon, and as always, I am honored and excited to serve as your mistress of ceremonies for this not to be missed event. There's a couple of people are still making their way because they understand the importance and significance of this event. Now, today we have gathered to celebrate our remarkable tourism achievements, explore innovative ideas, and embark on a journey of growth and learning. The theme of our summit, One Band, One Sound, Let's Grow, Learn, and Build Together, captures the essence of our collective spirit, unity, and commitment to continue making the U.S. Virgin Islands a premier destination. As we reflect on our successes and envision our future, remember that tourism is all of us, or as we say in the VI, tourism is all of we. Now, it is the heartbeat of our islands, our collectiveness, our unity, the vibrant rhythm that connects us all. Our natural beauty, cultural richness, and warm hospitality sets us apart and keeps our visitors coming back for more and more. Now, we are thrilled to have some of the most brilliant minds and most passionate voices in the industry joining us today. It's going to be an exciting day. Together, we will uncover new insights and strengthen the bonds that make our destination so unique. And now, without any further ado, we're going to dive into a day of celebration, inspiration, and collaboration. So, ladies and gentlemen, and those viewing live wherever you may be, welcome to the 2024 U.S. Virgin Islands Tourism Summit. And this is where you clap. You clap right now. You clap right now. You clap right now. So I wanted you to get that applause in because I'm going to now ask that you hold your applause until the end as I recognize our government officials. We have the Governor of the Virgin Islands, the Honorable Albert Bryan Jr. You're going to clap anyway. That's fine. Clap after every person. That's fine. That's fine. Let's do it again. Give the governor a bigger clap then. We have our Lieutenant Governor, the Honorable Tregenza A. Roach, Esquire. We are also pleased to have a representative on behalf of Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett. We have our Senate President of the 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, the Honorable Novell Francis Jr. I certainly would like to recognize all other members of the 35th Legislature who are present here with us today. Thank you so much, Senators, for joining us. And you may stand. Those senators that are here, you may stand. We'd like to recognize our Commissioner of the Virgin Islands Department of Tourism, Commissioner Joseph Boshelty. Now, he has an incredible team, a dynamic team, and they work so well together. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize Assistant Commissioner Alani Henneman. And Alani, if you can please stand. We have Deputy Commissioner Rosie Farrington, if you can please stand. And our Division of Festivals Director, Mr. Ian Turnbull. Ian, if you can please stand. And there are additional persons from the Department of Tourism family that are here. They're behind the scenes. They have been working tirelessly to help make this event possible. I would also like to recognize members of the Governor's Cabinet, our distinguished commissioners and directors. Thank you for being here today, and also his senior staff. We would also like to recognize Pastor Gerald McDonald. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this event represents an unwavering commitment to a vision and the beauty of teamwork that really makes the dream work. Now, at this time, I'm going to ask that you stand for the National Anthem and Virgin Islands March, and that's going to be by our talented St. John Administrator, Mrs. Shakima Jones-Sproul, and I'm going to ask that you remain standing for the invocation by Pastor Dr. Gerald McDonald.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombasted in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. All hail our Virgin Islands, emeralds of the sea, where beaches bright with coral sands and trade winds bless our native lands. All hail our Virgin Islands, bathed in waters blue. We give our loyalty full to thee and pledge allegiance forever true. God bless our Virgin Islands. Humbly now we pray, where all mankind can join today in friendly warmth of work and play. God bless our Virgin Islands, where beautiful and tall beneath the sunny sky, hilltop high, hold out a welcome for one and all.
Let us pray. Eternal and gracious God, as we gather here today for the U.S. Virgin Islands Tourism Summit, we ask for your guidance and blessings upon this important gathering. We thank you for the beauty and richness of these islands and the opportunities they offer to visitors from around the world. Give wisdom to all those in attendance as they discuss and plan for the future of tourism in the Virgin Islands. May their decisions be guided by a commitment to sustainability, inclusivity, and the well-being of both residents and visitors. Bless the leaders, organizers, and participants with open minds, compassionate heart, and a spirit of cooperation as they work towards a common goal. We pray for the success of this summit and for the continued growth and prosperity of the tourism industry in the U.S. Virgin Islands. May your light shine upon this gathering, guiding us towards a future filled with peace, harmony, and abundance for all. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Thank you so much. Let's give our administrator and Pastor McDonald another round of applause. And I was going to tell you to remain standing because we are now going to welcome for his remarks Governor Albert Bryan Jr. Welcome the governor.
Good morning. Please be seated. You know, it's funny. I was sitting there. I'm never the first to speak. Good morning, Lieutenant Governor Rhodes, Senate President Noel Francis, Commissioner Bushelta, dignitaries, other senators here. You know, I noticed about a year ago that something was missing. It's like we stopped having these summits. And I also realized that the most times that we hear from the tourism community, the business community and everything, is when things are going bad. If you ain't got nobody on Main Street shopping, there's gonna be a summit. If there's nobody in Christiansted moving around, there's gonna be a summit. And one of my favorite people always stresses to me, 70 to 75% of our economy is tourism. And we have a lot of discussions about how to spend the golden eggs, but we never have discussion about how to protect the goose that lays them. So today is about maximizing tourism. And certainly I'm like Michael Jordan, you know, it's good that we win the championship, but tomorrow we're going out, we're gonna shoot 100 free throws, 100 jump shots, and 100 layups. Because you have to perfect what you have. And I think that we're doing really well. But there's still a lot of work to be done to maximize tourism. So when I sat with Commissioner Bushelta, that was essentially my message. How do we maximize tourism? How do we make sure that we're getting the best of every tourist that come here and they're seeing the best of us? And there's some simple things that I want you to think about as we move along today about how we do this. Because yes, I want to celebrate the great wins that we have. You know, I like coming out on top for the Virgin Islands. But I want us to think about how do we extend the day? You know, tourists go home at 5, 6, 7 o'clock. How do we make sure that they stay out till 9, 10 o'clock? Every hour they're out there spending is more money for us. More money for the taxpayers, more money for our consumers, more money for the government. How do we extend the stay? How do we convert daytime tourists coming in on cruise ships to make sure they want to come back and spend 3 days? The people that are spending 3 days, how do we get them to spend 7 days? How do we increase the spend? You know, I love to see people on Magens Bay. But when they're on Magens Bay, that means they're not on Main Street shopping. If they're out in Kramer's Park, they're not spending money in downtown Christiansted. So how do we make sure that they have a good time, but they still are making our dollars worth the investment that we're using for marketing? I often tell people I think about it like Disneyland. Disney is the best at getting your money. You spend a day in Disneyland with your kids, they get every single dollar from you. You feel like somebody has grabbed you by the ankles, upside down, and just shook you until all the money comes out. You leave there after the fireworks, exhausted, with a smile on everybody's face and nothing in your pocket. This is the experience I want you to have when you come to the Virgin Islands. We have to think about product development. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of sitting down on the 5th floor of our new Hampton Inn Hotel on Havenside Dock, and it was a real pleasure to come there. Walking into St. Croix Airport and seeing a Frontier jet pull in just brings warmth to my heart. Going to Frederiksted and seeing the boardwalk all lit up now, the waterfront, the stuff we did with the park, the cabanas, everything coming along in Kramer's Park, is great for us. How do we make sure that we keep our game up? You know, when you're the governor of the Virgin Islands, it's like this entire place is your house. And you know, if you own a house, every time you see something in your house, you see more work to be done. I gotta paint that, I gotta fix that, I gotta buy a new rug for there. This morning I was driving up our beautiful waterfront promenade, and while I was looking, I was like, our palm trees are looking kind of sick. We need to get out there and fertilize these palm trees. We're not getting the nutrients enough that they need because we want them to stay green. That's the kind of product development. And not only for the Department of Tourism, but everybody who participates. because waste management, public works, the police department, and certainly the hard-working men and women that make our tourism work. We're all a part of it. That's what we want. And of course, quality control. So today is a lot about what you, the industry experts, are saying. We want to hear what you think needs to be done. Where are the little places that need polishing and the places that need big polishing? We're putting in new airports, new seaports, bathrooms downtown, parks. We're doing all kinds of things to make sure that our product is good. But if we do it in a unified and concerted effort, imagine how impactful it will be. So today, I will not talk long because I came to listen. I came to listen to what you have to say about the tourism product. What are the tourists telling you they want? You know, if you look at the industry now, just as an example, everything is about families. You go to hotels, the vacations are designed around families. Cruise ships around families. What are we doing about making sure the Virgin Islands has something for families? I'll leave you with that, and be bold today. Don't be shy, and usually you're not ever. Don't be shy. Tell us what your concerns are. And yes, we may not be able to fix everything, but at least we'll have an idea about how to prioritize to make this territory what it is, the #1 in the tourism business in the Caribbean. Thank you. I wanted to say it first. I can't leave the stage without saying, I really have to give a big round of applause to Commissioner Joe Bochelta and the Department of Tourism for the awesome job they have done over the last couple of years. And it always makes me laugh because people are, whenever I have an economic development meeting with people from the States, they ask me like, oh, how are you guys doing since COVID? I'm like, yeah, we're trying to recover from COVID. We're trying to get back to the tourism numbers we had then, not trying to get up to what we need to be. Thank you, everybody. Love you.
Thank you so much, Governor, for those remarks. Now, we are indeed getting today's Tourism Summit started. And our first presentation of the day, we're going to take a look at the state of the USVI tourism. And we're going to hear from Commissioner Joseph Bochelta. Now, as a proud Virgin Islander, I'm eager and excited to hear this update. There are so many exciting things happening within the Virgin Islands. And the Department of Tourism, they're doing so much to drive visitation to our beautiful home. So ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you our Commissioner of the Department of Tourism, Mr. Joseph Bochelta.
Angela, Michelle, Alma, Alda, Ross Reggie, I can't dance yet. I can't dance. Morning. I want to take the opportunity, you know, I always wanted to have this. I got this from Governor Brian. He said, Joe, you got to have a little music when you come out to speak. So they gave me the music. Now you're in trouble because you didn't get the governor the music. But when he go back up, please make sure he get his music too. But thank you. Again, my name is Joe Bochelta, Commissioner of Tourism. I want to begin by thanking the Governor, Lieutenant Governor Roach, for their continued support of the Department of Tourism and our team and our mission. Of course, I want to thank the Senate President and all the senators here that continue to support us by approving the budget. Thank you. I know it's coming up soon. But we want to thank you for all you continue to do to support tourism. Of course, Assistant Commissioner Henneman, Deputy Commissioner Farrington, the rest of the tourism team, thank you for all you do because, you know, I get to hold the position as commissioner, but we all know when you lead organizations, right, it's the team that carries the weight, right? I'm one person, but I get the benefit of having a very well educated, talented, hardworking team. And with that, I just want to recognize Beverly Nicholson Doty, who helped groom many of the team, and for the wonderful job she did for 12 years at the head of tourism. You know, it's kind of like when I took the job, it's kind of like, you know, you're the draft pick, using one of the governor's pieces, but you came into a winning team that was winning championships before I got there, and we continue to do that. But without further ado, I want to jump into our performance and how we've been doing as a tourism destination, and we have been doing extremely well. And as a quick aside, I just left the U.S. Travel Association board meetings. And one of the best compliments I got, to tie back again to the governor, was the head of Visit Orlando, the head CEO. She came to me at the meeting and said, Joe, I just want to give you a huge shout out. My husband and I, we flew into St. Thomas and we spent a week in St. John, and it was absolutely fabulous. You have a great destination. And I said, well, I think the same thing when I go to Orlando. My question to you is, I hope you left a lot of that money that you make in Orlando here in the territory. She said, for sure we did. So I want to give some pieces of USVI and why we believe and are confident that we are on the right path. This came from Expedia. The #1 trending summer destination was St. Thomas. And if you look at some of the other places on the domestic list, Napa County, Las Vegas, Honolulu, New York City, St. Thomas is #1. We should definitely clap on that, right? We are small dots in the Caribbean, right? When we go out and we compete against, Minister Bartlett and Jamaica and Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, people still wonder, and they sit back and they say, how does St. Thomas get 25 plus jets to fly in on a Saturday in the summer? Listen to that, 25 jets from the mainland fly to St. Thomas in the summer. And a part of it is because the jets are coming full, which is why St. Thomas is #1 on the list. And then internationally, you see Tokyo, you see Barbados, some other places in Scotland. But we also were #1 internationally too. We didn't show it on the chart, but we were #1 internationally too. Now, of course, there's a reason why people know and hear of us, and it's the beautiful marketing you see all around. But it's because we have the lift I just mentioned. We're up 24% in airlift from 23 to 24. And one of the things you'll notice, particularly if you're in the business, that our seasonality curve is flattening. So I remember the times before the hurricanes when this time of the year, there were furloughs going out from the same hotel we're in right now to employees saying, come back in October. Now, the hotel's full. Occupancy full. They're looking for more people to come to work. But it's due in large part because we have seats for people to fly in. So one of the things I'm very proud to say is that we finally beginning to get new lift back into St. Croix. And it's coming through San Juan right now, and we have some other announcements that hopefully we'll make later in the year. But Frontier and JetBlue coming back. Frontier coming into St. Croix for the first time, and JetBlue coming back, because JetBlue was in St. Croix before and it came back, is important, not only for helping make connections back to the mainland, but also through the Caribbean. And many of us in the room remember when American Eagle was around and we could go back and forth without having to go to Miami and come back. And then it went away. And now most of us, and most of the things in the region, we have to go to Miami to come back to the Caribbean. Now, with JetBlue and Frontier both setting up operations to increase the Caribbean travel, that should help us with not having to go as far. And then the next piece is St. Thomas. We have seen consistent seats into the territory. So much of our competition in the region have fallen off seasonality-wise in the summer. So the jets go to fly other places. USVI, particularly St. Thomas, has been holding strong. And we have increased. The reason why we're up 24% is we added a daily flight from Charlotte into St. Thomas. We have brought back year-round the flight from Dallas to St. Thomas. We have an added weekly flight from O'Hare in Chicago to St. Thomas. Third daily flight from Miami. Delta Airlines kept the second flight on from Atlanta and added a third flight to St. Thomas on Saturdays, as well as holding a JFK flight all summer. United Airlines, another major carrier, kept the Newark flight and Dulles flight on, and in addition to bringing the Houston flight back. United, again, kept the second O'Hare flight. And there are reasons why they're keeping these, and I'll speak a little more to some of our marketing efforts and sponsorships. It doesn't just happen. I could tell you as a member of a Caribbean tourism organization, every one of the Caribbean destinations are trying to figure out how do they get lift, but more importantly for us, how does the USVI get the lift? And we go down a little more, we see Spirit continues to fly, bring 2 flights in from Fort Lauderdale and 2 flights to increase the flights in from Orlando. Sun Country, Minneapolis, flies in to St. Thomas, extended the time and added a 2nd flight. Again, these are signs that the destination is doing really, really well. And of course, JetBlue, Boston flight, added a 2nd flight, wants to add a couple more flights from Logan in Boston. And Frontier has begun flying from San Juan to St. Thomas, and I met with the CEO about a month ago, and there's more talks about expansion in the USVI. The backbone of our tourism product is cruise, and maybe that's because I used to run White Coast, so I have affinity to cruise. But cruise is doing well for us, and as the governor mentioned, cruise is important because it's not a zero-sum game between cruise and stayover. They complement each other. 30 to 40% of the visitors that come to the territory come first on a cruise ship and then decide to come back. So when we talk about having 1.5 million passengers come into St. Thomas, that's 1.5 million eyes to take an opportunity to make a trip back. And what's very important for us is we are seeing growth in our St. Croix tourism product, a vibe like no other. We expect to see a 77% increase this year from last year. We continue to see the cruise ship arrivals go up. The partnership is working. Credit to the VI Port Authority and their relationships with primarily Royal Caribbean. But they continue to do a good job, not only in growing the business here in St. Thomas, but also in St. Croix. And I see Mr. Anthony Atley, CEO of WICO here, for all they continue to do to keep the business growing. What's dear to our hearts in tourism is the hotel tourism tax, right? We're the only government agency right now that's 100% off the general fund. 100% off the general fund. So we are funded 100% by the hotel occupancy tax. Now, as a former CFO and investment banker, anytime I see increase by 12.4%, that's good news. And hotel collections, as the governor mentioned, our best year ever was 2022. 2024 is on target to surpass 2022 in terms of collections into the hotel occupancy fund. Additionally, we are one of the few destinations I know of in the Caribbean that actually has more sharing economy rooms, that's Airbnb, VRBO, home away from home, than traditional hotel rooms, i.e. the Westin, timeshares. That is still growing for us. So many of us thought after Hurricanes Irma and Maria that the sharing economy would be a trend. Now it's actually a major portion of our portfolio as tourism destination marketing organization. So the sharing economies are very important for us. And I think one of the lessons learned out of COVID is the reality is that some people just prefer to stay in an Airbnb or Vrbo than stay in a traditional hotel room. And I'm pleased to say that we have a very, very strong inventory of these types, including our villas on all 3 islands. We continue to be a leader in regional tourism. And this is very impressive considering our inventory for traditional hotel rooms. So when we compete, and I'll give you a quick side story. Before a San Juan in Puerto Rico or a Montego Bay, they didn't really see the USVI as the competitor that we are today, right? Because we had our niche, we were doing well. But now, they see USVI and they're like, if you're doing business with USVI, you cannot do business with our destination. Because the competitive nature of what's happening has heightened. And a lot of it is because we're number 2 in seat growth in the region, up 56%. Our ADR, $600+. So we have now moved into luxury and ultra luxury. But that didn't come by chance. We made a tactical decision in COVID to increase the household income we targeted by over 50%. So it was a risk, but we made the effort to say we are going after people that have a higher income because we believe they could afford to stay and pay more. And as we can see, the ADR right now is 33% above the Caribbean average. The RevPAR, which is revenue per available room, is $455 above the Caribbean average. And our international visitors are up 21%. And this stat right here is very important to show the health of our tourism product. Our Q1 arrivals into the territory are up 63% from Q1 in 2019. So very, very strong growth for our tourism product here in the territory. Now, I spoke a little bit about why we believe some of the growth in airlift, and it's come from our sport partnerships. And contrary to what some of the social media experts may say, or the radio calling experts, we did not pay $10 million for the Cubs sponsorship. We did not. But the good thing is, if you believe we paid $10 million, then it's a great investment because it is showing dividends for us. Our Cubs investment, Red Sox, Jets, and we did one piece with the Milwaukee Bucks. Each one of these locations have seen increased weekly flights from those destinations. And that was the goal. We wanted to pick sports partnerships because it was very innovative. We were the first ones into the business, and we were the ones holding. And we wanted to have a franchise that had a loyal fan base. They had an iconic stadium. But most importantly for us, they had direct lift from that city's airports into the territory. Boston Logan, JetBlue, coming in, still holding. Increasing flights, want to do more. Chicago Cubs, I just mentioned we have 2 airlines flying in, United, American. Both of them have increased seats in weekly into the territory. The Jets, and if you don't follow sports, NFL is different than any other sports. I guess unless you're European and you speak soccer or football. But in America, NFL is the big piece. Our Jets deal is strong. The tri-state area continues to be our #1 area, but it is also the most competitive area we have. The supply in the airports, JFK, Newark, LaGuardia, extremely competitive. And we have held our lift out of all of those airports, which is very, very strong to our partners here in the territory as well. And then we also decided to move into lifestyle partnerships. And we have a deal with Clutch Sports, which is, if many of you don't know, again, a sports tie-in. That's LeBron James Agency. Rich Paul is the CEO. And Rock Nation, which is Jay-Z. And some people ask us, well, why would you do these types of partnerships? Well, this is where we start to get into other areas outside of tourism. So when we go and we showcase the territory, we know these athletes make a lot of money. We see them traveling all over. But now they're starting to travel to the USVI. And then the conversations evolve into wanting to own a piece of the rock and then have their families come back here regularly. And all of that is our opportunity to capture some of the wealth that's happening with athletes that we know travel to many of our competition and now are choosing to have the USVI be their home base away from home. And of course, I was talking to some people on the road and they said, well, USVI made it because you're in the shade room. And I know we got some social media people in the room, they know the shade room. We did an event where we brought our dancers to South by Southwest, which is a major event that happens in Austin, Texas. And we were on and we were sponsored when the shade room came back. 1.4 million views, 10,000 likes, 500 comments in just one post out of that event. So we continue to push the envelope in terms of our visibility and what and how we do our things we do to continue to keep the USVI top of mind. Global exposure to lifestyle events. We continue to push the brand. People shop differently. They look for different experiences in order to make choices to spend their disposable income. So we've been a part of the Miami Caribbean Carnival. Ian Turner, credit to him and what he's done and the team. I see Have a Heart here for what we've done as a festival piece. One of the best compliments I've received in the position was when I had a conversation with the Minister of Tourism for Trinidad. And he came up to me and he said, we know what you guys are doing in the USVI with your festival brand. And we recognize what you're doing. But the part that stood out to me is he said, the USVI festivals has the best marketing in all of the FET world. The best marketing we have with USVI festivals. So we continue to not only cater to our traditional guests that have come from the Northeast and the Southeast, but now we're moving into different demographics. I like to tell people we are all-inclusive destination. You have disabilities, we welcome you. If you're the LGBTQ community, we welcome you. And one quick tidbit that I learned at the meetings the other day is that the members of the LGBTQ community spend 1.5 times more than regular travelers. So anytime you have an idea of why you should be all-inclusive, it's one, we welcome people, but two, the same people that some people may have issues with, they spend more than anybody else, which helps our quality of life here. Oh, I wanted to go back. And then one of the big things that we had here, many of you were here last year when we had Uber Soca, when they took over the waterfront here in St. Thomas. And maybe the alcohol that was poured in there, it might be the effect of the palm trees. I don't think they recovered from that event yet. But this year, we are going to St. Croix in October. So Uber Soca will be in St. Croix in October. I believe it's October 24th on St. Croix, down the streets of Frederiksted. So St. Croix, be ready. Major event. The cruise has been sold out for months now. So we look forward to bringing Uber Soca to St. Croix. International marketing. So even though 90% plus of our travelers come from the US, we are still pushing hard internationally. And we have 3 markets that we are focused on right now. One is Canada. 1 in 3 Canadians plan to make major trips in 2024. The second one is Italy. We have 1 million Italian visitors that plan to come to the US just for FIFA. We plan to try to take advantage of that. And then Denmark. Of course, we all know our ties to Denmark. They have been a strong visiting bloc to the US for years. We're working to try to get it back to the levels that were there under Commissioner Doty's time in terms of getting some of the charters back from Copenhagen back. We actually have some meetings set up in the next week or so with the airport in Philadelphia and American Airlines, because this summer, Copenhagen to Philadelphia direct just begun, and we're trying to work that in to get that flight to hold from Philly to St. Thomas so that we could get people in directly from Denmark to the US and into the territory in the same day. MICE, meetings, conventions, incentives, and exhibitions. This is a very important group for us because these are the incentive travelers that come in groups. They're important for this property and others because they tend to spend more because they're business trips. And of course, for us, there's a diversification in the groups that we market to. As you can see, 2023 to 2024, we've seen 17 programs booked, almost 7,000 nights, 2.7 million in room revenue, and over 300,000 in tax revenues, and that's just with 17 programs. Imagine if we grow that by 20% or 30%, and we're well on the way. We see 2024 projections alone have half the revenues just expected to come in this summer. And we expect to continue to push that. And when we sometimes lose sight that it is a super competitive space. So all the destinations we compete with, they have MICE people. And we have our salespeople out there, and our MICE representative is here too, Mauricio. But we have to stay competitive in the space. You know, we have many people that sit around and think we're entitled to the business. You're not entitled to this business. Every Caribbean destination, every US destination is fighting for their tourism product. Because people have limited disposable income, and they will choose to spend it how they do. An interesting piece of data I'd like to share with you is sometimes people lose sight of the fact that we are a US territory. So we have some data analytics that show us when we lose a visitor that was very close to booking a trip to St. Thomas, many of us in the room may say, well, they went to Montego Bay, or they went to St. Martin, or they went to San Juan. No, many of our visitors we lose go right to Miami or Fort Lauderdale or Orlando. And what that should tell us is we all go to Miami. We know the different hotel prices we could stay at in Miami. We know you could drive to the mall and you could do all these other things and still drive to a beach, not as nice as ours, but you could still do it. So, and the reason I'm making that comment is it's important to understand the competitive nature of the business. It is hard. And of course, the other piece that we don't have, we know we live in an island, is we can't drive 4 hours from someplace in Florida to get to Miami. We have to fly. So anything in or out is fly or take by cruise. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how we stay top of mind. Social media footprint is huge. So we made a concerted effort with our marketing partner and our public relations partners, how do we continue to increase our touch and feel with our potential visitors and past visitors? We're on TikTok, Threads, and LinkedIn. These are new additions. And I was practicing my TikTok dance because I've been a TikTok user now because I spoke on a panel and they told me I had to use it, but I haven't perfected it yet. And I didn't want to embarrass myself, so I didn't do it. But maybe when we do the beachside chat this afternoon, I might take a little practice and try it out. But we also have been growing our Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube social media platforms. These are very, very important to stay top of mind, and we do a very good job. As you can see, so far, we're up 300% with 20 million impressions so far. We do something sometimes called familiarization trips or fam trips. This gentleman, Chubby, of Chubby Diaries, that airs on National Geographic, we brought him in for Carnival last year. He was one of the journalists we brought in. And to show how he enjoyed and loved his trip to the USVI, he came back with 20 of his friends and stayed in a villa in St. John. And we know of this because we had a relationship with him, so we knew he came back. But if we take it one step further, many of you in the social media world may know of Alex Earl, right? We didn't have anything to do with her coming. She has 10 million followers, 2 million likes, and 2,000 comments on St. Thomas. And she came on her own, promoted the USVI. So this is a shout out to all our partners in the USVI that do their job every day. Our charter boat providers, our villa owners, our people that keep the rooms clean, the hoteliers, our taxi drivers. Yes, the taxi drivers, some of them take some blows, but some of them are very good. And they're the ones that we see first, and they're the ones that people see last. Shout out to all of them. Because we do what we do, and we're fortunate enough to share the pretty pictures. But the people that make the USVI, the soul of the USVI, are the people that work in this industry. And I want to thank them because this slide right here keeps them at top of the mind. Because we didn't have anything to do with this particular post that she came in with her family and spoke about. Now, elevating our brand. The brand game is everything. That's why we walk around with an Apple phone instead of a LG. That's the reason why many of us put our 3-year-old in Nikes instead of Payless sneakers. Not because the Nikes are any better, it's because the brand. And we know of the brand because we are programmed to see the value in the brand. And I always go back to one social media program that goes out that speaks about the bottle of water, right? The same bottle of water, 99 cents for 12 in Walmart. You go to a bar on the street, it may be $2. You go to someplace else, it's $4. The same bottle of water, you know. Same bottle of water, ain't nothing changed, it's the same cold or room temperature. And then you go to a hotel that's a 5-star, and that same bottle of water is $9, and you're drinking it like it's the best water in the world. But that's branding and marketing, right? Because you in your mind now, yeah, it gotta be good, right? But that's what it does. And it's the same application in destination marketing. You go out, you show people why we are better than anybody else. And I want to start with St. Croix, a vibe like no other. One of the biggest and hardest tasks I have is to continue to promote St. Croix. And it's not because St. Croix isn't a gem, because it is a gem. But the realities of the business is people generally travel to a flag nationality. And for good, bad, or indifferent, and you could do this anecdotally when you move on the road, ask a question. When you think USVI, what's the first thing comes to your mind? 90% of the people will tell you St. Thomas. That's what they will tell you. That's St. Thomas, the USVI, that's what we know. A same issue with marketing St. Croix. So as hard as we push for St. Croix, you Google St. Croix right now, and we had this with our team, we keep trying to correct some of these things. You'll see 7 out of 10 things will still push you back to St. Thomas. That's the realities of the game. Now, what we try to do now is figure out, okay, well, how do we level the playing field? So a decision was made, and we were launching it right before COVID, and we pulled it back, and then we relaunched again, which is to have St. Croix be its own brand. St. Croix a vibe like no other. Because the traveler, and I was telling them, 90% plus of our travelers come from the US. That's 330 million people. We only need 1 million to go to St. Croix, and St. Croix gone up the charts. So, and I'll give you a quick side discussion. One of our biggest competitors in the region for the US same stayover traveler is Aruba. Curacao was very much like our relationship with St. Thomas and St. Croix. It was Aruba and Curacao. And Curacao was like, we got to do something differently. Because if we do the same exact thing as Aruba, the people are going to keep going to Aruba because that's what they know. Now, what we did and what they did is they figured out, okay, we need to look differently. So they decided to say, we're going to go after a different market. So they went after the European market. So if you've ever been to Curacao, it looks like, you know, the Netherlands. And you go to Aruba, it looks like Miami. What we decided to do here in the territory is say, okay, well, St. Croix is a different product. You know, you go to St. Croix, it's a different feel. It's a different vibe. And that's what it is, because it's laid back. It's outdoor adventures. It's different, but different in a good way. And many of us, I know I see some Crucians in the room, will tell you they got better cooking than us here in St. Thomas. But we have to benefit from that and use that. So we have a vibe like no other, and now we're starting to see the trajectory. The other thing I always tell people is you cannot compare a destination that's been in tourism for 40 years and start out in 5 years and say, well, we're going to be with the one that's been in 40 years. It doesn't work that way. That's not how the business goes. But more importantly, that's not how people buy trips. They don't buy like that. So you got to build, and we are building. I'm happy to say we're moving in the right direction. And of course, we have a new tagline, which is naturally in rhythm. That has been resonating around. And you know, I think one of the things that we always talk about is whether or not this is rocket science to our neighbors up in the BVI. It's not rocket science, but you better be daggone good at what you do. And I know we have the best marketing out there right now because all our competitors are always sneaking pictures of our stuff. Sneaking pictures to go back to take to their agencies of what the USVI is doing. So we are pleased and happy that our marketing team is in-house because our Naturally in Rhythm brand is resonating. So much so that we're starting to see some of our competition start to use our words. We're like, hey, that's our word. But nothing is safe in the space. And these are one of the things that the governor asked when we spoke that he mentioned is we want people here in the territory to see where the tourism dollars go. And we go out and we represent. And what we had when we sit down with our team is we want people to feel energy. We want people to feel connection. We want people to feel that when you come on vacation in the USVI, you're going to leave a different person. So all the stress you had when you came from wherever you came from, at least for them 5 days or 7 days, or if you come off a ship for those 7 hours, you're like, USVI, St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John is where I want to be and go back to. So I want to jump into a couple of our new videos that we will have coming up in the new marketing season, and I hope this works. Okay, so the videos may not be playing. But we have a series of videos that are going to be coming out that are going to speak to our marketing efforts across the U.S. We continue to advertise on multiple platforms. Social media. We still do TV, but we do all our buys on streaming platforms. Very different than traditional TV. You know, I always have this conversation when we speak to people about how do you reach, particularly millennial people, is if you're reaching millennial people, you cannot try to reach them like how I grew up with my parents watching the 6 o'clock news. They're like 6 o'clock news on NBC? You kidding me? But that's the reality, because that generation is not doing that. So they actually get the news from social media. They get their following. So if you want to reach them to get a vacation, you need to do that. Another quick tidbit I would tell you is that the millennial people are spending more on average than Gen X. They like tailored trips, and if you give them what they wanted, they will spend. And we are moving much of our branding tailored to that particular group. Because the other thing that we know and we're learning in the business is you got to plan for the future. So even though 50 to 65 is still our sweet spot, 65 people grow older, and they stop traveling. And you have to start forming the next set of people to travel right now. Okay, I think I'm stuck. Do you have anybody from VINGN in the room to help with the bandwidth? Anybody VINGN in the room? I click it. I can't even take a shot of a power authority either. So we just have to keep moving. We're stuck. All right, so with that, I'll just conclude by saying, because the rest of the slides were primarily our videos and our social media and where we are. USVI, we're in a great position. We continue to do great things in the space, regionally, nationally, and globally. I also want to conclude by thanking, again, all our partners. And that's the private sector, the nonprofit people, our government partners. It is one product. When people move around, if our residents are not nice, we hear about it. If the taxi person is not nice, we hear about it. But guess what we don't normally hear about is when they're great and they do everything that was expected. You know how we hear about that? We hear about that when they continue to book new trips back to the territory. So I see this thing, I feel like I'm in a psychedelic movie now because things are happening behind me and on the screen, and I don't know what's going on, but they're still happening. So I think that this wasn't planned, but you could walk with it. Take it. They had some good stuff, and the people are watching it, that it's happening. But I want to conclude by saying thank you. I look forward to mingling at the breaks with everybody. Take advantage of the panels this morning. And then this afternoon is set up for many of our small business people, whether you're in the room or whether you're following, because we have experts in here that tell you how you can make your business better. And I'll close with one anecdotal piece. Many people ask, well, how come tourism is 70% plus? And I always give people a story of a Subway restaurant that when we have 5 cruise ships in town, and the owner of the Subway restaurant walks away and says, son, today was a great day. And you ask the question, well, why was it so great? I ain't see no tourists in there. I went in Subway for lunch, I ain't see not one tourist in there. Well, it was a great day because all the taxi people make money. All the merchants made money. All the excursion people made money. So you know what that means? They now go out, instead of bringing lunch to work that day, they actually went out and spent money in the Subway, which converts into gross receipt taxes into the coffers of the government, which allows the same people who are employed in the restaurant that would not be employed if we didn't have a strong tourism product. And that's what people have to understand. It's direct and indirect. That's what we have to look at. So it's not just, well, I see them tourists walking. I remember my days coming up, the big thing used to be the liquor boxes going back in the ship. But now all the liquor you can buy in the States for thing and you don't have it. But now it's different. So people now spend the money, but they spend it for experiences. And that's part of it. So that's basically in a nutshell where we are in tourism. So whenever you see somebody talking about tourism is all of us, and if you're from the VI, you tell them it's all of we, you know that we are doing what we are asked to do, and we will keep doing it. Thank you.
Listen, that deserves another round of applause. Okay, so you are going to have an opportunity to view the video, so we're going to take a quick look before we actually transition into our panel presentation.
I only
We'll keep you warmed up with some jam band, of course. But we certainly want to thank Commissioner Bushelty and his entire team, the hardworking team at the Department of Tourism for all that they do. Indeed, here in the state of the U.S. Virgin Islands, it warmed my heart to see the numbers, our increases, and all that we are doing as we continue to move the U.S. Virgin Islands forward. So I know behind the scenes, they are going to ensure that we can have the videos momentarily. It's always okay to listen to some jam band, so we'll give them a minute.
St. Croix, a vibe like no other.
I believe we have a second one. No, that's it. Okay, fantastic. They told me keep it moving. Fantastic. So listen, a vibe like no other, St. Croix. I just love that. I think when we see these videos, it just gives us a sense of pride to see all of the amazing and unique things that each of our islands have to offer. So St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, I think one of my favorite taglines, and I know our director of festivals is going to appreciate this one, the 3 reasons to FET. But I think aside from 3 reasons to FET, there are so many unique things that each island brings. So I just love the U.S. Virgin Islands for being such a special place. So we are going to get ready now for our very first panel presentation. And this is going to take a look at the state of the Caribbean. And we're going to have this panel moderated by our Deputy Commissioner, Miss Rosie Farrington. So we're going to ask our moderator and our panelists to make their way to the stage.
Morning to everyone. Such a pleasure for us to be here this morning to discuss very important topic, state of tourism in the Caribbean. We have an esteemed panel, a plethora of experience that they're about to share, and I wanted to just introduce by way of their biographies each of the panelists. We have Alexander Britell. Alexander is the founder and editor-in-chief of the Caribbean Journal. Alexander is also editor-in-chief, the authority on Caribbean hotel and real estate news, and of Caribbean Journal, the world's largest Caribbean travel site, along with the Caribbean's 2 premier rum events, the Caribbean Rum Awards of St. Bath and Bonaire Rum Week. A native of New York City, he is a cum laude graduate of both Harvard College and the University of Miami School of Law. He lives in Coral Gables with his wife and 2 daughters. Alexander? We also have Daniela Middleton, who is partner at Development Counselors International, also known as DCI. Daniela is born and raised in New York City. Daniela's professional and personal experiences can be drilled down to 2 words: digital traveler. Daniela began her career in destination marketing a little over 2 decades ago And as partner at DCI, she leads tourism strategy for destinations across PR, digital influencers, travel trade, and MICE marketing. Daniela earned an MBA in marketing and strategy from New York University Stern School of Business. Daniela. Then our third panelist is Ms. Sharon P. Flax Brutus, who is the owner of White Oleander Destinations. Sharon currently calls herself a tourism expert curator and runs her own destination management company, White Oleander Destinations. Most recently, she was named managing partner at Virgin Gorda Villa Rentals, a luxury portfolio of 33 villas. She's currently the interim chair of the BVI Yachting, Hotel and Tourism Association. Sharon previously held positions as senior executive with Rosewood Little Dix Bay. Under her tenure as director of tourism of the BVI from 2013 to 2020, arrivals grew continuously, with 2016 being a benchmark historical year for the BVI industry. Sharon was recently recognized in BVI as an icon of tourism. Thank you. And this is our panelists, these three amazing, well-seasoned and experienced panelists. We're going to start off, get comfortable. We're going to be here for a little minute. So we're going to start off by, I'm going to ask questions to three of you. I'm going to ask some to just one of you. So we're going to, that's going to be basically how we proceed. Sure. First question is, what trends are shaping the future of tourism in the region? And how can we capitalize on them? I'm going to start with Daniela, and then we're going to move to Sharon.
So I'm going to start from a little bit of a macro or global perspective of the travel trends we're seeing, and because they're trickling down. And my esteemed panelists are going to really hone in on what that means for the region. So there are a few things that are going on right now. One is transformational travel. So this is the next level of the experience economy. Travelers are looking to become better people. They're looking when they're traveling to have a aha moment, to have something that changes their life, and that doesn't necessarily mean something that happens in destination, but it could very well mean that. But it means that maybe they are really bonding with their partner or their families or their friends. But they're looking at travel as a way to just transform themselves. And this is very important. And so we're seeing this in a lot of marketing now that's coming out from destinations. And you've even actually seen this in some of the new brand videos of people not just being on the beaches. Yes, that's wonderful. But how are they just learning a little bit about themselves while they're traveling? And how are they becoming better people? The other thing is sustainable travel. It is not a trend. It is here to stay. Regardless of who is being surveyed, whether it's Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z, Alphas, if they could even be surveyed at this point, sustainable travel is an important part of the decision-making process. So whether it's 60% of travelers up to 90% of travelers, it's very important. They are expecting more than just, they're expecting actually water refill stations. They're expecting better practices when it comes to housekeeping. But to go beyond that, they're looking at how do you incorporate the local destination and the local tastemakers into my experience. So whether it's bringing in artists to help design a building or to have a local flair for a hotel. It's just really about how am I giving back to this community that I'm visiting and not taking away from it through my travel. So as I said, no matter who you're surveying, it's important and it's actually becoming a norm. Two very in-the-moment trends. So those two are sort of that long-winded, they're here to stay, they're going to be here for several years, and they're going to continue to evolve. Two very in-the-moment trends to keep in mind, gig travel. So this is people who travel for festivals, concerts, their favorite artists. It is exploding. And it's exploding. It's always happened. It's exploding. It's the Taylor Swift effect, where everyone is booking travel now to Europe to see Taylor Swift, and they're planning their vacations around their favorite artist tour schedules. But we're seeing this really play an important role, especially with the Department of Festivals, when we're looking at the artists that are coming in to the territory and promoting that, because there are people who want to follow, and they want to build out their trips around that. The other thing is jet setting. So this is not new, because there have been people who have been going to Death Valley since the 70s. But Emily in Paris and Lupin, they contributed to between 44 and 50% of travelers reporting why they went to Paris. They were influenced by a show that they watched. White Lotus exploded Sicily. We had travel advisors telling their customers, if you were booking Sicily, it was like booked for 9 months, a year out. And Thailand is already seeing the impact of the White Lotus season 3, and they haven't even set a start date. So we haven't even watched White Lotus season 3, and they're already starting to see the impact of people wanting to go there. This is also why the US is so excited about hosting the World Cup. So think about gig traveling, but like people want to travel for sporting events. So those are very much in the moment, but something to keep in mind as we're looking at how do we market the region and how do we market tourism products within the USVI.
Excellent, thank you. I'm also a huge White Lotus fan too, so we can talk about that.
So you're probably looking at Thailand for the near future.
Thanks, Daniela. Moving on to Sharon. Sharon, what can you tell us about trends that are shaping?
Well, what I think is very basic as well, and it's something that we don't normally think about in the age of technology. Personalization is very important. We're seeing persons traveling and looking for that personalized guest experience. That is so important for you here in the US Virgin Islands, because you're small enough to be able to curate a personalized guest experience. Doesn't matter the size of the group, whether it's a honeymoon couple or whether it's a meeting and incentives group that's 200, 300, 400 persons. Another trend is you're looking for something that's a little different. I call it a wow moment. It's important that every client who comes to the US Virgin Islands can go back with that one moment that was just totally spectacular. And that's about the people. So I see our people as being one of the biggest trends that we need to work with to create that different experience.
Thank you, Sharon. And Alex?
Sure, well, and thanks for having me. I wanted to take a step back and just sort of talk about the state of tourism in the region. And I think following up on what the commissioner said, the USVI is probably doing just about better than anybody, but the whole Caribbean is doing really well. I don't think everybody around the region quite realizes it. Arrivals are, reaching record-breaking totals just about every destination. There's a few outliers, but people are traveling. And so I think to me the biggest trend is that people are traveling, and travel has become something that is so essential to their lives that it's not just, you don't just go on, Thanksgiving and Christmas. You don't just do a summer trip. You're doing multiple trips a year. My flight yesterday from Miami was totally full on a Wednesday in July to the Caribbean, right? Now, right? I mean, and it's a testament to what you're doing here, and it's also showing people are coming, people are traveling, people are coming to the Caribbean, and what Commissioner said too about seasonality, I think people are coming to the Caribbean in the summer now. So that's sort of changing the way the region needs to think about marketing itself, because it was always a slower time. People don't, people are going to go to the Hamptons, they're going to go to Europe, and COVID was one of the silver linings with COVID was that everything was closed except the Caribbean for about 2 years, right? And so people who never would have gone to the Caribbean in the summer were like, well, let's go. It's the only place we can go. And then the Caribbean kept those people. And so that to me is one of the biggest trends is that people are coming all year round. They're coming multiple times, and so that should change the way the region and destinations think about marketing themselves, because it's a different kind of customer. It's not even just what niche, it's people are coming. So how are we going to get these people?
Thank you, Alex. I wanted to also say most things in the Caribbean were closed with the exception of the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we were proud to know that we were safely open, but we were able to welcome many people.
And on
to
that
the
point, I
show.
would say the destinations that opened faster and better are still seeing more success. And the destinations that took longer to open up are still struggling to get those numbers back. So.
Thank you. Thank you. The second question, Sharon, you touched on this briefly, but perhaps you could expand on the thought of how is the region leveraging its rich cultural and historical heritage to attract tourists?
Well, I can say we see it a lot, especially with you here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it's making a bit of a difference. You're seeing it a lot as well too with the St. Lucia's, Trinidad. Some destinations are doing it better than others. But the U.S. Virgin Islands, I think that I'm patting you on the back here. You're seeing the cultural inclusion. You're seeing the historic sites. You're seeing the historical walks and the focus on what our food is. I think that is very, very important because every guest or destination has to eat. And what better way than for them to experience the destination that they're in. I like to say, at least in the BVI, it was not successful, but every restaurant and hotel should have on their menu a local dish. It doesn't matter if they're in a hotel. There should be something that you can sample so that your guests can take a piece of your culture and your heritage back. Even sitting here in this meeting, I had to kind of like tap my foot to jam band music. That's what should be in the lobbies. That's what should be in the airport. And for those who don't know, I'm actually a Crucian baby. I actually went, yes, I have that train. I went to the same high school as our governor, St. Dunstan's. So I believe in making sure that who we are, the guest sees that. And that's a part of our culture. We may want to think that it's only jam band, but we have the young people, we have, the Gen Zs, I call them.
Yes.
And so culture is never stagnant either. So we have to incorporate the younger generation and their take on what our culture is supposed to be.
Thank you. Welcome home.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add, as we market St. Croix as a vibe like no other, St. Croix understands the assignment where the culture and history is concerned. The Pate Festival, the Mango Melee, the Tart Festival, I mean, all of those things aptly represent St. Croix and who they are as a people where culture and food is concerned.
As the tagline is saying, and I think you chose a really nice one, St. Croix definitely is a vibe like no other.
Yes. Very well. Alex, can you share with us what you see, how the region is leveraging those?
Sure, yeah. I think to Sharon's point, you're definitely seeing more culture showing up in marketing, but I think even more important is the way that culture can deepen the experience once you're on the island. I think, there's certain things that are still going to be the big selling points for the Caribbean, and then there's nothing wrong with that. It's the most beautiful place in the world. That's a thing to be proud of, and that's a good thing to get people to come. And I think everyone who travels now wants an authentic experience, and they want the culture. And so once you get someone, you show them who you are, you show them what you're all about, and that's what people are desperately craving from their trips. That's really the root of the experience that everyone wants, is they want to connect with people, right? And I think the Caribbean is such an amazing place to do that, more than other parts of the world. So I think, even more than attracting them, it's once you've attracted them, you show them when you're here, and you show them the culture, and you show how rich it is, and then they come back, and then that's how you really keep them coming back. Because that's the other thing I would add about the Caribbean. Other destinations, obviously you're competing with destinations all around the world, but most people are not going to Thailand every year, right? But people are going to the Caribbean every year. Most people, they'll go to the same island every year. Once they pick it, they're going to keep going back there. And so that's how you keep those people coming and distinguish yourself, is once they're here, make them never forget you and make them always want to come back.
Absolutely. Naturally in rhythm, we try to maintain that flow. For Daniela,
Yes.
can you tell us what you see are some of the biggest challenges currently facing the region where tourism is concerned?
So I don't think it's necessarily a challenge. It's something I think to just be aware of. But it does piggyback a little bit on what Alex said as well. People are not necessarily traveling, and maybe your target consumer is not necessarily traveling to Thailand each year. The competitive set has widened. So whereas before maybe they said, I'm going to go to the Caribbean and here are the 3 places I'm going to look at, what we're seeing is that people are saying, I'm going on a holiday, I have 7 days, this is my budget. And all of a sudden they're looking at 4 places that couldn't be any more different and are spread out geographically around either the US, the Caribbean, the world, and it's a really interesting time. The other thing is that many of the target markets that we have direct flight access from in the States are major hubs for other destinations. So they're targeting the same consumers that we are. And then because of COVID, there has been a shift where we are not, yes, we're falling back into a rhythm of seasonality, but there are a lot of people who are traveling out of season and shoulder season because they can work remote. Maybe, they have business trips that they're extending. And that is playing into, all of a sudden, the competitive set has widened. Oh, I'm going here on a work trip. I'm going to bring my family and stay an extra week because I have flexibility. Maybe my partner has flexibility. Whereas before, maybe that 7 days would have been a trip to the Caribbean. So that's something that I encourage us all to keep in mind. And really, I think looking at the marketing and the sales efforts, that destinations that you would not have considered as part of your competitive set, keeping a pulse on that. What they're doing, where they're at, when are they marketing, even when you're in the airports. That's actually a telltale sign to see, oh, direct flight has, direct flights to the south of France, they've increased the season. All of a sudden, they've widened the season by a month on the front end. That's interesting. And just kind of keeping in mind that, yes, we're getting back into a rhythm, but it's not as strict as it was pre-COVID by any means.
Thank you, Daniela. Alex?
I would say the number one challenge for the Caribbean is in aviation, air access. Flight prices, I think, are right now one of the biggest challenges for a lot of destinations. You've seen hotels in the Caribbean change from family-friendly to adults-only because the flights to that island were so expensive that no one was going to buy 4 tickets to that island for their kids, right? So we can only have an adults-only hotel because we can't afford it. And so I think, my colleague Guy always says, nobody ever goes to the Caribbean without an airplane, right? And it's true, and that it has to be a major focus. I think the USVI has been very strong in this regard, realizing that you need to be talking to the airlines, you need to be courting the airlines, because if you're not getting here, you're just not gonna, it's not gonna happen. And so the other thing is flight prices. Air taxes are a huge issue. You don't have that issue in the USVI, and that's part of the reason that you have an advantage, because you don't have massive aviation taxes, right? Some islands have huge taxes that end up adding $100, $200 to a ticket, and at the end of the day, when you're planning a trip, the flight is usually the first thing you're looking at. Even if it's going to be, even if you're spending 4 times that on the hotel, for some reason, $100, $200 on the flight, that's going to play into your mind, and you're going to make your decision on that. So that's always going to be a huge issue for the Caribbean, and then also attracting new lift.
Yeah, and there was actually a little while ago, they priced out a family of 4 from the UK traveling to the Caribbean, and it was actually more affordable for them to travel to Dubai for their vacation than to the Caribbean. So that goes into how your competitive set has just now exploded because of the factoring in prices, airline prices. Like all of a sudden, it's like, I may have wanted to go there, but wow, I didn't realize I wanted to go there, but I could. That seems a lot more attractive.
Yeah. Which I tie it, 1 minute, please, Sharon. Which I just wanted to add to what Alex mentioned too when you talk about airline fares. We talk to people and people are constantly, oh, the tickets are too expensive to come. And I say, how do we have a conversation with the airline to decrease fares, but the flights are full?
They're paying.
So they're
That's
paying.
people-
So that's something that, we consider that's a challenge too. Having that conversation. Let's incentivize. Why are we incentivizing when flights are full? So
It may be a shift of who you're targeting.
exactly.
Which is what the commissioner talked about.
Exactly. Absolutely. Sharon?
Yeah, I just wanted to pivot a little bit, and I tend to internalize the challenges. And two that I see for the Caribbean region that we really need to look at is infrastructure development and maintenance of the infrastructure that we've built. Because I tend to see that you do see the complaints if there's a challenge with roads, with power, with the ports, and a lot of the Caribbean, you're seeing that from the state of the Caribbean side. What is a big challenge as well too is human capital and Caribbean human capital. In that some of us have to, in the BVI, we have to import labor. And because you're importing labor, it doesn't look sometimes like a Caribbean experience. So I think that that's one of the things that I see as a challenge that we, as a Caribbean, need to look at, and look at concerted ways to grow our own human capital so that we are the makers of our own fate.
Yeah.
Great point.
And I would
Great
just add
point,
one
Sharon.
point to that on the hospitality side, and certainly what talking to hoteliers, maybe the biggest issue is staff housing and the cost of living in the Caribbean. And so obviously when you're doing well, the island's doing well, real estate prices go up, it's great, but then where does anybody live? And so, and so it's true, and not just for locals, but especially if you're in the industry, it's really hard to find a place to live. And that's going to be a problem for the whole region, and that has to be
And it's
figured out.
costly.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Not just difficult, it's costly. Question for Alex. How can Caribbean nations adapt to changing consumer preferences and global economic shifts?
That's a good question. I think
Not a heavy question.
No.
I think you can only be as there's a limit to how resilient you can be.
Yes.
No one thought the pandemic was going to happen. There are always going to be these black swan events that happen. I think the Caribbean is better positioned to deal with this because of its proximity to its main market, which is the U.S. and Canada. I think that's why the Caribbean was able to rebound so much more quickly than other parts of the world. At the end of the day, when you're dealing with, the Caribbean is sensitive to the U.S. economy, right? That's not going to change unless supersonic air travel happens and we can get people from China in 3 hours. We're going to be sensitive to what happens in the U.S. But I think the Caribbean has, absorbed one of the most difficult challenges it ever could have, which was, a huge series of regional hurricanes, and then, a few years later, the pandemic. And I think it is a very resilient, naturally resilient place. I think people here are naturally resilient, and, the best we can do is what we've already learned, right? So.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Alex. And Sharon?
I think it's about being nimble and about being able to pivot when you see what's happening in the sector, when you see what's happening around you. I think that's the biggest lesson. You look at the data, you see that something is falling apart, and you collectively work together to figure out, okay, this is going south. Do we sit on it until it goes to the bottom, or do we pull our industry together? And that's either an island or Caribbean-wise, what we're doing here. We're having forums. We talk about what we see, and then look at best practices for a destination that's done it well.
Very good. I like that point about pivoting, Sharon. The USVI, we can really relate to the importance of being able to be creative and brave. I mean, during the COVID pandemic, when everyone closed their borders and shut their doors, we were able to pivot. We hadn't seen a cruise ship for over a year. So we were able to pivot to really grow and develop the overnight stay portfolio. And that was a critical lesson that we continue to learn from. So great point. Daniela?
I think going off on the pivot and taking risks, when we look at how we spend our marketing dollars and being creative, you said being creative is really important. We are all, well, not all, most of us are in the travel industry here, or we care very much about the travel industry. But remember, our target consumers don't work in the travel industry. They're consumers. They are getting bombarded multiple times during the day with amazing consumer marketing and brand messaging. And so their expectations of marketing is very high because consumer products. So when we look at collaborations, usually within the travel industry, it plays it safe and maybe collaborates with a luggage brand or, within the travel industry. But I think we're showing creativity is going beyond that industry, looking at what other brands that consumers are, that your target audience or like-minded target audience is consuming and partnering up. So think of like some crazy partnerships. Travis Scott and McDonald's partnered. Oreos and Game of Thrones partnered. Not so crazy, their little line, Doritos and Taco Bell partnered. But these brand alignments, these collaborations are really strong because they're reaching the consumers that both brands want to reach. And I think, I do want to commend the Department of Tourism on going outside of the travel industry and partnering with the sports brands, the lifestyle brands, because you're reaching your target audience where they least expect it, and you're also expanding your target audience. And not a lot of travel destinations, if any, are really doing it at the level of the USVI. And I have to say that because it is amazing to see. And yeah, it really is. And it's to your point, Rosie, it's about that creativity and pivoting.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Daniela. Final question. I said we were here for 45 minutes. It seemed like 15.
Time flies.
Final question. We can start with you, Sharon. How are Caribbean destinations differentiating themselves in the global tourism market?
That's a little bit of a toughie because we like to think that we're one Caribbean, but at the end of the day, the product is so diverse in the Caribbean. And as you know, if you're in destination marketing, you're not so worried about the rest of the Caribbean. You're worried about yourself. So it's about creating a unique selling proposition for the U.S. Virgin Islands and for the different islands. I think that is remarkable in terms of differentiating St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, because they're all different. There was a tagline we used to use in the BVI: yes, we're different, we're not for everyone. So what may be the client who goes to St. Croix is going for something different. So I think that's where collectively as a destination, you need to put your heads together so that you offer a different experience. I was having a conversation with someone and I said, it's about creating a wow moment for every guest who steps foot in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I think that if you can look at doing that, you can maintain your positioning as, as a top tier destination. Going after the luxury traveler is something that I think that would differentiate you. You're starting to do it, but the luxury traveler has a disposable income. They're not worried about what the airfare is. They're just worried about, you know what? I want to get there, and if I can get there in 2 hours and be met at the airport, I'm willing to pay for it. So I think that's something, as a destination, you should look at.
Excellent, thank you. Alex?
Thanks, Sharon. I don't know if you guys know Vincent van der Poel Wallace. He was the tourism minister of the Bahamas. He always had a great line that the Caribbean is the greatest unowned brand name in the world. And so the destinations that do well in the Caribbean understand that you're never going to be bigger than that brand, right? Yeah. The Caribbean brand. And so how do you use that brand to draw people in and then show your unique selling points, right? I think the destinations that are able to do it now are the ones that most creatively use the traditional sun, sand, and sea as a gateway, and then start telling their story. You know, we were talking about Aruba. I think Aruba has done a good job. You know, Aruba is pretty much a big beach, right? And it's the most beautiful thing about Aruba, right? The inland Aruba is not that nice looking. It's kind of, you know, generic looking. But people could go there for the beach, but how do you tell the story of the beach in a different way? So like to Danielle's point, you know, they've been using stories about how the beach makes you feel and how when you go to Aruba, you're a different person, right? And you're doing it here now too. You feel the vibe, you feel it. There's a different energy here. So I think it's using what everyone knows is the traditional selling points of the Caribbean in creative and new ways. Great point. Daniela?
I mean, both of my esteemed panelists nailed it in terms of, I think, my advice as well. I think looking into where are the opportunities to tell the story, you have amazing assets. And how do you tell, and how are you going to tell the story? I was at a conference, an industry conference last week, and Destin, Florida, pulled up this statistic that said, I think it was like 59% of children spend less time outside than prisoners. And but they used that and they said, we have water and we want to build, and so they were like, we have a beach. And so then they built an entire tourism campaign on getting children outside as part of the vacation, getting them in the water. And so they didn't build an infrastructure, they didn't change what they had, but they took something that really resonated with their team, with their community, and they said, okay, we know families want to get outside. So it is that using your assets to tell a story that goes beyond the assets. But, you know, whether it's through food, it's through festivals, it's through music, it's through culture. It's that, yes, travelers are going to come here because you have amazing beaches. They're going to come here because you have amazing properties. And then what else? And get them into that what else. And that is really where you can spend or sort of double down on the messaging.
Excellent, thank you. I just wanted to share too that as a destination, USVI just recently rejoined the CTO, Caribbean Tourism Organization. And it's to really show and say that we have more in common than in not. And we want to be able to work cohesively to market the Caribbean region because we understand that our competition is more than, you know, amongst ourselves. So we understand that we have common challenges. We also have common assets, and we want to be able to market them. If you come to St. Thomas, you can get Tanguilla, but you have to come stay with us first. Yeah. So yes, you know, we do understand that tourism is important, and for many of us in the Caribbean, it's the breadbasket of the economy. So we want to continue to do whatever we can do to build, to grow, and to sustain the product. Yeah. So that's it for our panel. I wanted to give each person an opportunity, 20 seconds or less, to just offer your final closing thoughts. Starting with you, Sharon.
20 seconds. Let's keep doing what we're doing so that in doing that, we can make ourselves better.
Awesome. Thank you. Alex?
First, I think the USVI is doing a really great job. The fact that we're doing this summit is a great testament to that. And I think, as did what Sharon said, I think let's keep it going. The Caribbean's doing well. Let's ensure that that is sustainable and continues for the years to come.
Thank you. Daniela?
More collaboration. A good idea comes from everywhere, right? It's not just within people, within your teams, or even within your island or within your destination, or even within your industry. And so just that more collaboration and having conversations like this so that we can continue to ideate and innovate and take, you know, more risks and show our creativity to widen the pool of potential visitors to come to USVI.
Thank you. Thank you to three of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So let's give our panelists another round of applause, please. As I mentioned, we have some of the best in the industry. That was just our very first panel presentation. But I know some of you may need to stretch. You may need a cup of coffee or some tea. We are going to have an abbreviated break. But first things first. First things first. And this will only require you to raise your hand. We were talking about St. Croix, a vibe like no other. And we recently had the Tart Wars. We're going to start with my least favorite. And then if you like this tart, you can raise your hand. But we're going to start with my least favorite. Team Pineapple? Yeah! LT, really? Okay, then we're going to go back in my next least favorite. Team Coconut? Really? And now we're going to, of course, save the best for last, okay? Team Guava in the building? Team Guava, yes, yes. Okay, good people. So now you know who to network with when you go outside for your coffee break. Team Guava, let's stick together. You're going to have about 6 minutes, and we're going to ask you to return back in the room so that we can continue with our program and stay on schedule. We thank you so much for being here, and if you're tuning on the live stream, this is the 2024 Tourism Summit.
na na. Me have a story to tell. Oh Lord, my check, my glove, one of those. I met this girl, her name was Rona. She telling me that she want to come over. Then she start to sneeze, tell me she have the sinus. But I don't believe her, man, I think she have the virus. I'm quarantined, I'm alone and I need some company. Right now Corona is the only one who won't come to me. She never know I had the vaccine, no, that I was just a simple guy. When she see the size of the needle, oh, Corona started to cry and bawl out. Aye, aye, aye. Corona don't run from me. Oy, oy, oy. You say you wanted my company. Aye, aye, aye. So let me put on my mask, let me put on the rubber. Oy, oy, oy. I got the vaccine, then over, let me choke you. Choke it, choke it. Bend over, let me choke you. Choke it, choke it. Bend over, let me choke you. Choke it, choke it. Bend over, let me choke you. Choke it, choke it. Oh, na, na. Oh, oh, oh.
I don't care if it's reggae, calypso, or soca in the party. Long as the girl them they are king lion and team will be pulling up sharply. I just love to see the girl them walking up their waist. Now I gotta get the taste. I say I like it. Oh, the way how she pushing it back and whining. Oh, all on me. I say I like it. Oh, the way how she brace on the thing and ride it. Oh, I like it. I like it. They want it rough, give it to me. Wine pon the thing, just give it to me. Back it up, give it to me. I like it. I like it. They want it rough, give it to me. Wine pon the thing, just give it to me. Back it up, give it to me. I like it. I like it. Plenty woman in the dance and I just can't choose one. So me go find me a girl with a VI Trinidad or Jamaican. When it come to carnival, it's one thing on my mind. We not come to waste no time. I say I like it. Oh, the way how she pushing it back and whining. Oh, all on me. I say I like it. Oh, the way how she brace on the thing and ride it. Oh, I like it.
Hey yeah, sing it for them, hey. Been watching you so damn long. The way you've been carrying on, rocking your waist all night long, jamming to your favorite song. The things that you do to me, sending me to ecstasy, pull me up on energy. Your body is calling me, baby. When you wind your waist, it put a smile on my face. The way you just drop down low, it's sending me low. Girl, you're tantalizing me with all of your agony. Just do this one thing for me. Shove back your hair, girl. Shove back, 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 shove back. Let me sing. Body controlling, girl, body rolling, body controlling, raw. She the girl, body rolling, the body controlling. Look how she rolling, raw. Hey, look she wind up, she boom boom, shake up, she waist, and look how she holding, raw. When the girl, body rolling, my eye controlling, the girl, looking so. Hey, baby, you making me hot. The way you flinging that back, like good food, you hit this spot. Now a physical contact. Don't mean to be rude and bold, but baby, you touch my soul. Your body will go and gold. Girl, what a sight to behold. You making me feel like real. You're taking control of me. Girl, nobody run the road. I'm here to scream and shout.
Session feeling irate. You know me cup done full of syrup and candy. And then I see a sweet young lady walk right over to me, and then she whispers softly,
Just give me one night to do what I want. I know what you like. I got what you want. Just give me one night to do what I want. I know what you like. I got what you want. You want. You want. You want. You want.
hey, I want your stop, I want your drop, I want your walk up your waistline stop. I want you put on the floor and sit up. It's your galaxy like an export Samsung. Huntsville, Jay, April, Mr. Wall, Dax, Laurette, Akila. Baby, Angel, talking to a bad man, a big problem on hand. Tell me that his woman don't want it in her man. She hail and hail.
Okay, we're going to start with the pineapple lovers. If all the pineapple lovers can return to the room, they need extra time because they make bad decisions. So the pineapple lovers, can you please make your way to the room? And then we're going to ask the coconut lovers to follow suit. Guava always does what's right. So Guava, just take your time to your seats. But we're asking everyone to please return to the room. We are ready to begin with our next panel presentation. So we're going to give everyone 2 minutes to make that. Pineapple is here? Oh, well, I gave you guys extra time. I gave you guys extra time. Of course, pineapple is there. Coconut is here. Guava, good people. I know good people when I see them, you know. So we're asking for everyone. We would like to continue with our panel presentation, so please make your way to your seats. I still see folks standing. We are asking for everyone to kindly take your seats so that we can begin with our second panel presentation. Asking everyone to kindly take your seats so that we can get ready to continue in our summit. Excellent. So, despite your tart preference, we thank all of you for returning back to the room. And we are so excited to continue in our panel presentation. And I always just love having the opportunity to introduce our Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Tourism. When you talk about passion, when you talk about talent, and someone who is really dedicated to their job, without a doubt, Assistant Commissioner Henneman, hands down. She is such an asset to the Department of Tourism. And I mentioned before that there's a dynamic team at the Department of Tourism. So this panel presentation is going to be exciting. We're going to take a look at the product, the tourism product. And there's so much that you're going to be able to hear and learn from our panelists. So without further ado, we're going to turn things over to our Assistant Commissioner to lead our next panel presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this kind word, Shayla. I am Team Guava. I have to admit that. You know, as we came together as a team to look at how to make this summit interesting, we had to look at some really creative topics and invite some phenomenal speakers. And we are as strong as the product, and the product is as strong as the people because we go hand in hand. And our theme in the office is one band, one sound, and they all mesh together quite well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists to you. First, we have Barry Brown from Afar magazine. For those who don't know, Afar is about experiential travel, so it fits right with this team because it's all about the experience. Barry Brown has over 25 years of experience, and he asked me not to read the whole bio and just say that he has a lot of experience. But Barry, I'm not that far behind of you. Don't worry. We're there together. He has 25 years of experience in advertising and publishing. He has strong connections to the Atlantic and Caribbean islands. He has a plethora of experience, Travel and Leisure magazine. He's not new to journalism or this industry, and I'm just going to say that he's also a founding member with CTO as well, CTO Foundation and Arbery Palmer Hawks Scholarship Foundation. He also sits on that board as well. He's recognized globally and on the US and in the Caribbean for many of his accomplishments. Please put your hand together for Barry Brown. The man in the middle is Guy Britton, who is with Caribbean Journal. And for most of you in the room, we know as a Caribbean destination, we look for those articles because what Caribbean Journal reports is what trends. And people respect the fact that Caribbean Journal is amongst us, knows the people of the Caribbean, and takes the time to show our similarities, but also our differences that make us unique. And I wanted to commend Caribbean Journal for really being there with us during the pandemic, showcasing that USVI was open and reporting on all the great work that we did during that period. Guy Britton serves as VP and Managing Editor of Caribbean Journal Invest, and Caribbean Travel Advisor. He brings over 30 years of experience in Caribbean hospitality, publishing, and having previously held prominent roles at Bonaire Corporation. Guy's expertise spans from his tenure at the Caribbean Travel and Life, similar to Barry, and he has a plethora of things within his portfolio as well. Please put together, oh, and then I have to mention, because they did put this here, with his lovely wife. That means you're well balanced.
Yes.
Please put your hands together for Guy Britton. The gentleman on the end is Mauricio Patino. He is a part of the tourism team. He has worked with us under multiple commissioners. He's been with us through different public relations, and he loved the destination so much that when he had his chance to go out on his own, he came back to us. So Mauricio is a part of our team. He's part of the MICE team. He also works with us on many of our special events when we're on the U.S. mainland. He's our Spanish brother. His family hails from Colombia, and he has really, really good experience in the marketing and incentive and events. So please give your hand together for Mauricio. So as we start, I wanted to throw out a question for everyone. This was not within the questions that we shared, but because we talk so heavily in the space about influencers and what it means to the destination and the product, I want Gary and Guy to speak about how journalism and the PR space has been shaped by influencers, and then I'll transition to you, Mauricio, so that you can speak to what it means for groups coming in and group travel having influencers in that space. So Barry, go ahead.
Thank you. One of the things that we realize over the 15 years that Afar has been in business is that the wealth bubble is getting younger. Our median age is 39, making $450,000 household income. So, what we're realizing is that the influencer market is getting younger. Our social media director is all of 27 years old, and she is killing it in the marketplace. So one of the things that we have to pay attention to is that the dynamics of the luxury travel audience is changing. Luxury, in fact, itself is changing. It's getting younger, it's getting more affluent, so we need to be very aware of what influencers are having effect on the thoughts and actions of today's traveler.
Hi, thank you. Thank you all for having me here. It's nice to be here with you all. But I believe that social media and influencers have become so important to us. We are all influencers now, right? Everyone has a phone in their pocket. They're always taking pictures, and the media landscape has completely changed in the time that I've been involved in publishing. And I think social media and influencers will become even more important in the future for sure. We have 430,000 followers on Facebook for Caribbean Journal. It just shows you how many people are paying attention to what it is we're doing out there. And I think it's a segment of the market that's a little misunderstood as well. So, but it's definitely changed the magazine world. A lot of the magazines that I used to work with aren't in business anymore, and that's because of the internet. And that's why we're doing Caribbean Journal is doing so well, because it's all 100% digital. So,
Mauricio?
Thank you. So what I can speak of for group travel, what we'll see on the corporate side and meetings and incentives is bottom line. So the budgets have been changing over the course of the few years. And what we've seen, especially after the recovery from post-pandemic, is the leisure travel. Leisure travel picked up so much, and the business travel, corporate travel has been picking up, a good momentum. So what's happening now is that we're realizing, and these corporations are realizing, that this kind of travel, group travel, is extremely important for their well-being and for retaining their staff and their employees as well. And then all of that comes with the experiences that our destinations have to offer, and the partnerships and collaborations. And there's many organizations that focus on or advocates for group travel and incentive travel. So honing in on those organizations and partnerships are key for sustainable group travel.
I would just add to say, when we look at group travel and you look at how companies are now pivoting, they're saying, bring your groups, but also bring your family so that they can have that experience. And I think that we are trending, and the influencers that we bring in also help us to sell those markets as well. So when they go home and say, oh, we're going to the US Virgin Islands, their family and their significant others are saying, well, we've seen them on social media, we've seen them on YouTube, we've seen them on National Geographic. Let's tie in and extend the trip because of that.
Yeah, and that's actually really true. So as we see the stats, because it's all in the stats, right? So you see an average travel for a group or a conference is 3 to 4 days. But now there's the pre and the post dates, which is now extending that time to 5, even 7 days, right? So that part is extremely important for our destinations.
So, as we look at this, when you look at continuous product evolution, how crucial is the experience to the tourism business, and how important is it to keep reinventing yourself within this space? And I'll start with you.
Okay.
Gary,
Barry.
Barry,
That's
sorry.
okay. It is critical to continue to evolve the travel experience because, as was pointed out in the prior panel, the world is expanding. Not only can we hop over from New York to LA for a weekend, Paris is a real weekend thing now. I spoke to a young man from Dominica yesterday who went to a wedding in Moscow and spent a week in Dubai on the way. So we are competing against a much broader palette. The evolution really has to do about creating experiences that are wow moments, as the prior panel said, but really about relevance, authenticity, and sustainability. It's making the destination have a unique selling proposition, something that distinguishes it from everyone else in the region, and really standing out on a continuous basis.
Guy?
You know, I think it's the most important question in the entire Caribbean is how do we enhance the product that we have? We have great product. It needs some love. It needs some TLC in many places. And so if you're a hotel company and you are specialized in coming in and updating that hotel and bringing it back up to its standards, I see what Sandals does, for instance, and it's quite amazing. And it's so important. Why is it important? Well, things are changing so fast today. Every day there's new things happening. You have to stay on top of it. The other thing is competitive. I've heard a couple of times this morning, how competitive is this market? It is incredibly competitive. If you're not on the edge of your game, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. But maybe the most important reason why you want to enhance your product and keep it fresh is profit. Because if you've got to be able to have new things to offer people, like whether that's a new bar, a new marina, a spa, whatever it is that you put in that you can charge people for, you make more money from. So it's ultimately, I think that's the most important thing is we're in business, right? So how do we make more money? How do we make more profit out of it? By keeping your product fresh so that you're competitive. So important.
And one comment to Guy's point is that 5-star hotels used to be the standard. There are now 7-star hotels in the world. So people are certainly willing to pay for it. We just have to put the right product forward, and that's needing to be continually evolved.
Thank you. Product evolution is extremely important for local businesses. That's the core of the success for any destination. So for me, economic development is key when it comes to product evolution and also doing it in a smart, sustainable way. So the key part for this is understanding your customers, understanding your clients, because I'll give you a perfect example. And just if you look out here to the right, we have the new Hilton that's being built, right, in Havenside, because we understand that there's a need for that product there. To accommodate not just only the pilots and the air crew, but also the business clients that are coming into the territory as well. So, but you also have to be cautious as you partner with different entities that focus on product is over-tourism. You have to be very careful on that because that's something that's trending a lot right now is this over-tourism. I don't think here in the USVI we don't have that particular concern right now. But in other destinations, that is of a concern. So you want to be strategic and smart in thinking about product evolution.
I think all three of you touched on some key takeaways from that question. One is that inflation is real. So what you pay for, you expect that service to meet what you've paid for. Correct?
Very much so.
And then if you look at sustainability, like Guy mentioned, it's one thing to come to the property, but the property has to meet the standard. You have to make sure that the hotel or the shared economy or the excursion gives you everything, everything for your bang for your buck. So you don't expect to come to a 5-star property and not have the amenities that they offered when you booked the stay. And I think as an industry, that's one of the ways of sustaining and maintaining the level of travelers that we continue to see. Because if you're a return guest and you've experienced it once, you expect to experience it twice, right? And then if you are sharing that information word of mouth, and I tell you, Mauricio, I tell you, Guy or Barry, come and visit the U.S. Virgin Islands because this is what you're going to expect, and then you come and you don't meet those expectations, it causes visitors to now start to question your product. So when we look at enhancing and expanding the product, it's not just about what we can offer and for the first time. The key to tourism is making sure that people come back a second, a third, and a fourth time. And so we talked about trending and what's influencing the space within the Caribbean. What do you, well, I'll pitch it out to all three and then I'll personalize their hearing. What do you think about the cultural aspect on the visitor experience from your perspective, which is from journalism, and then in terms of your product and what it means to selling the product for you, Mauricio? I'll start with you.
Cultural connections are the real currency of any destination. It's about connecting in an authentic, in a deep, and personal way. It distinguishes one destination from another. It makes the understanding of the experience and the actual experience itself much more compelling. And we like to say that it encourages people to travel deeper.
It's vital. I mean, if you can get the visitor to interact with the local community in many, whether that's through food, through history, through events and things like that, you're really knocking the ball farther down because it creates a bond that brings the visitor back. It creates a connection that he's not going to have any other way. I still think I heard earlier somebody say, you know, you've got to hook them in with the sun, sea, and sand, but then let's get them involved in the food, in the arts, in the music, in the culture, and all the things that we have to offer. And that's our jobs, to bring them and to show them that, whether it's a Meet the People program or it's special events, however you do it, it's hugely important. I think also the USVI does a good job at that. Maintaining the monuments around. I see, you know, the way that the waterfront looks now compared to the way it looked 10 years ago is amazing. So it's really done well here. I think what you're doing in St. Croix is fantastic with all the things there. So I think you've got the right idea.
Thank you.
Yeah. So culture is one of the main key differentiators when we compare ourselves to other regions, and that's one of the main questions that I get from meeting planners or plan organizations when considering the U.S. Virgin Islands is, what sets us apart? Yes, we all have the beaches, we all have the sand, the blue skies, but it's the culture that we really have to tap into to show how we're different and how we can make a bigger impact, because we can go back to over 107 years, 8 years that we've been under the U.S. flag, and then we're looking much further before that and seeing all the different nations and countries that have been a part of these islands and what they've left behind. And that's something that we all have to embrace, and we do embrace, and we're doing a really good job in doing that. So culture is hands down one of the huge differentiating factors in being able to promote our destination.
Next question is for you, Guy, and this is particular for you because it speaks to the Caribbean. And since we're talking about trends and what is trending, what are the current trends influencing the tourism industry within the Caribbean that you see are relevant right now?
There's several I could cite, but I would go to the luxury trend as number one. I think it's increasing and people want more, and it's never going to stop. I mean, people are never going to tell you, I want less luxury. Anybody ever heard that? No, I want less luxury. Nobody's going to say that. So it's and then defining luxury. Luxury is different things to different people. Mm-hmm. So it's our job to do research to find out what people think and then to provide the product. But that's a huge, another big trend that's affecting us all is technology. I mean, technology and everything, it touches every part of the visitor experience from the minute he thinks about coming to the time he gets home. It's all there and you know, in the room and everything. And so technology is a huge part. AI is another thing you got to think about. It's influencing everything and all the way that people are making decisions today. So you have to be on top of all these trends. You know, I think other trends that I see is experiential travel. That's what people want, experiences. They don't want to just go to stay in a hotel. They want to have an experience. And wellness travel is another thing that's new. It's up and coming. Of course, sustainable and eco travel is also a trend that's happening. So I think it's our jobs to capitalize on all that stuff and do the research and get the feedback from the guests and continuing pushing that ball. Yeah.
I agree. I think it was Daniela in the panel before that mentioned that most travelers are now looking for that experience, that aha moment while they're on vacation, whether it's to connect with families or for themselves. So everything that you mentioned all tie back to that aha moment.
Yeah.
You know, you come for the luxury, but you want the experience, you want the history, and you expect to take away something positive from that space. So, Barry, let's look at future predictions for tourism and the product development, and we're going to look at consumer behavior, especially because AFAR deals with experience and it shapes.
Yes, well, thank you for asking that. We actually coined the phrase experiential travel when we started 15 years ago, and everybody borrowed it and built on it, and so we've shifted to a different idea about travelers who care. So the future of the region, I think, as Guy pointed out, is luxury is here to stay. I think the definition of luxury has changed. It's not so much about the cost of something, but more about what it makes you feel. In fact, I was reading recently about some very unusual things, like Gucci is doing a hotel. So they're bringing their brand to life in a different way. Burberry is doing secondhand vintage stores. So it's about redefining luxury to accommodate the shifting mindset of what the consumer is looking for. Younger, more affluent, more sensitive, and more aware of the effect on individuals, communities, and the world.
Thank you. Mauricio, I wanted to throw you a curveball, but I won't do you that. When exploring, different prospects for the USVI, for MICE and sales, what are the top questions that you're seeing from planners who are seeking that authentic experience for their groups coming to the U.S. Virgin Islands?
Thank you, Eleni. So one of the first things, and everybody can agree to this, that we're in a great momentum in getting even bigger, and I'm referring to airlift. So airlift is one of the questions that I get all the time of how we're looking from the continental U.S. So that's one of the main questions. And also something that's come up a lot lately is DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I really want to give a little bit of attention here to everybody's right and really applaud the efforts of what's happening here with the sign language, which is a testament to that. So DEI is another very important topic. And also the culture and the experiences that are within the territory. And also another part, and especially looking at the post-COVID, is wellness. So, having that, thought about mental health and awareness, and that part's been extremely, extremely important. And that comes very closely with sustainability. And I'm so proud of the product that we have here in the Virgin Islands, of what we've done with sustainability, not just with our Department of Planning and Natural Resources, thinking of the shorelines and all of that, but also there are some hotels and resorts that focus on that. They have their own farmland, they have their own generators. So it's amazing what we're doing in that field. So definitely sustainability, airlift, and then I'll be remiss if I don't mention this, because it's not just important to hear what the customers are asking, but it's also you asking the questions, or even adding on to their thoughts. And the main thing here for us is you don't need a passport for coming into the U.S. Virgin Islands if you're a U.S. citizen. So that's one of our key takeaways, and you'll see it everywhere, you know, where we're doing our marketing efforts, that no passport required for coming into the USVI.
So as we look forward, and we've established that the product is strong, but we can't rest on our laurels. Yeah. So I'd like for each of you to think of ways and share with the audience how we can be more innovative in this space, how we can be a little more diverse, and how we could enhance the visitor experience and offer new things and reinvent ourselves within your space based on what you see trending or based on some of the data you're receiving.
Mm-hmm. Let me go first. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Something that I mentioned earlier about sustainable travel. That's going to be key for the smart travelers, for the people that want to travel thinking about, you know, the state of the globe and of the destination. So that's going to be key. The other is, of course, you know, looking within. So looking within and the local businesses and the local people, that part is extremely important. And I myself take so much pride into being able to speak with, from the moment I come in, to our airport greeters, to our transportation providers, to the restaurants, to all of our ambassadors, even those that are here and even those that are at stateside also, is the passion and the love that we all have of these islands. It's contagious. It's contagious. So, you know, focusing on local enterprise and local businesses is extremely important in you know, maintaining our travel industry strong.
Guy?
You know, I want to commend you guys. I just, coming into the airport yesterday, the experience was really good. It was overcrowded. There's too many people, but you can't do anything about that. That's maybe not a bad thing.
That's a good crowd.
It's not a bad thing. But the way that your greeters welcome you is unique in the Caribbean. A lot of other destinations look at you, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Let me see your passport. Go home. You know, I felt welcome the minute I walked into the airport, and that is really something. So congratulations on that. Really makes a big difference. But we're talking about future trends and things like that, right? Is that what the question is really? And I think the big answer for that is technology. It's tech. It's happening so fast. It's happening everywhere. And so you really have to stay on top of whether it's AI or AR, which is augmented reality. Half of it's digital, half of it's reality. Those kinds of experiences that you can build into the visit, the vacation for the visitor, is going to be even more important. I mean, omni-channel, you know what that is? It's like so that you never leave anything. Everything you need is right there for you all the time. It's all thought out ahead of time. So it's all programmed and packaged. So I think the more you can personalize that experience, I mean, ultra personalized through technology, know what that person likes to eat, know what his health concerns are, know about his kids, know what he wants to do, and have this whole trip planned out for him before he even gets here. You don't have to do it all, but I mean, it's coming to that. It is going to come to that in terms of the future, for sure.
Thank you. Barry?
I think the future of innovation is kind of interesting because AI is something that is, you know, kind of crash landed on us really fast, and it's doing lots of crazy things in the way we communicate. But I truly believe that there's always going to need to be the personal connection. AI can tell all the stories it wants, but if I have a writer or a journalist speaking to a local in real conversation, I think that makes all the difference in the world. Another thing that I like what Guy said about the warm welcome, I hope that extends to the hotel experience too, because that's a necessary thing. But I'm going to pivot to a whole nother thing. The future innovation for tourism is your young people. I worked on with the CTO, the Youth Congress, which has 12 to 17-year-olds debating topics of tourism. And when you hear a 13-year-old girl slam on the table and go, "You're not listening to us. Here's what the future needs to be," somebody needs to listen. So that's really the big thing I think the innovation is going to come from is your young people.
Thank you. It's funny that you mentioned the youth. I think Nicole may be in the room, but it's one of the projects we used to do. We used to have our students compete with the forum, and I think that when you look at the sandals product, and somebody spoke about it on the panel, I think it was you, Guy. When you look at how they start from the children, as you mentioned, and then they look at the land and the natural amenities of the destination, and then you go a step further and you look at the product development and what that whole sandalized experience is about. After you do those 3 steps, every destination that Sandals goes into sees an automatic increase in airlift. We call 100%. It the Sandal effect.
100%.
And they have a program that really speaks to what the tourism product should look like. And I think that you've all touched on it, the fact that you need innovative, you need youth, you need innovation, you need youth, you need sustainability. All those things help to expand the product and strengthen your tourism product. So overall, it helps to keep the wheel turning, but it's not one thing over the other. It's a symbiotic combination of all 3 things and knowing how to balance it to make your destination successful. As we wrap up for lunch, I'd like the 3 of you, now that we've been here for half of the morning, to just share what you think is the biggest key takeaway from today's summit before we close out for lunch.
I don't know that there's a single takeaway, but sustainability, relevance, authenticity keep popping up. I will add to it inspiring the youth who are going to be the next generation of leaders, and I'll wrap it up with that.
Thank you, Barry.
You know, the biggest thing I keep thinking is, how do I take all of you and bring them to the rest of the Caribbean? because when I don't see this when I go to the other destinations. They don't do what you're doing right here, right now. Just the communication that you're having. And you did this, I was at one of these 15 years ago. So it's been going on a long time. And it's that communication that is consistent that keeps the product alive. People are brand new getting into the business. They don't know. They need to know who to talk to and how to get into it. So I think that's the thing I learned. I see from here, and what you're doing in the USVI is so much better than in other places. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Thank you, Guy. Mauricio, you close out for us?
So the fact that this has been named the inaugural summit, Virgin Islands Summit, is very important because in all levels. So the people that are here present, the mix of people that we have here is amazing. So you have from the public sector, the private sector, right? And that part is extremely important because we want to hear your voice, right? We want to hear your voice. And then we have on the technology side where this is being live streamed on Facebook. So we have other people that are seeing us from afar, right? So that part is extremely important, is hearing your voice, is understanding the needs of everybody, understanding the customers, and making sure that we all back each other up and help each other out. From the moment you land at the airport, from the moment you check into your hotel or you're with the driver, that experience is extremely important. And this summit is a testament of what we've been doing, what we're currently doing, and what we're going to do moving forward.
Thank you. And just some house notes. I know that we're getting feedback saying there would be people want to ask questions. Save your questions for the governors and the commissioners beat side. You can ask all your questions then. Thank you to our esteemed panelists. And I want to say, I have to plug this live on the air. Shout out to our greeter team because they work hard for the Department of Tourism. They're here with us today. They're at the airports, they're at the seaports, and it was one of the major takeaways from our panel. So thank you to all our esteemed guests, and it's lunchtime.
Thank you.
All right.
So as our dynamic panelists make their way back to their seats, what we're going to do is view a video presentation and then just a little bit of housekeeping. Lunch will be held in the next room, our banquet room. So the buffet will be in the hall. where you were able to get breakfast, and then you're also going to be able to make your way to the banquet room to eat. And that's where we're going to have our keynote speaker. So we encourage everyone to stick and stay, grab your lunch, and go right to the banquet room so that we can continue with our keynote speaker. So we're going to ask you to feast your eyes to our screen for this beautiful video presentation.
U.S. Virgin Islands, naturally in rhythm.
Indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do, we're going to ask our officials and dignitaries. We're going to start with you. And just make a note that the faster you head to the buffet line, the faster that everyone else can eat. So everyone else is waiting on you. So we're going to start in the front with our front rows. You're going to go to the buffet. Then you're going to head to the banquet room to eat and prepare for our keynote speaker. So again, the faster that you in the front, our officials, cabinet members, dignitaries, make your way to the buffet line, the faster that everyone else can eat. So we're going to go row by row so that we can have an order and, of course, keep everything moving and head to the banquet room for our keynote speaker. So thank you once again. We're going to have some musical entertainment. You're, of course, encouraged to continue to mix and mingle